We talk a lot about the African Continental Free Trade Area, the ability for goods and services to move across the continent. Mr. Dangote, you have previously complained about the difficulty of traveling on a Nigerian passport across the continent. Has it become easier?
Even an hour ago, I complained to President Kagame.
At least you can come here visa-free.
No, here is the best example, but I told him that, yes, as an investor, as somebody who really wants to make Africa great, I have to now apply 35 different visas on my passport. And I told Mr. President, I said, Mr. President, I really don't have the time to go and be dropping my passports in embassies to get a visa. But you see, the most annoying thing is that, yes, if you are treating everybody the same, then I can understand. You know, I can assure you, Patrick doesn't need 35 visas. No, I said that. What I'm saying, you have...
You do not... You don't need 35 visas on a French passport compared to a Nigerian passport.
35 visas on French passport.
No.
But, you know, so which means you have a freer movement than myself in Africa.
Yeah. But you have, I remember that there are 3 countries, Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda. You have 1 visa for the free when you are a tourist.
This is true.
I've done it. So it's good. So you can expand it. It's a question of will. But I think all what is moving on about community between Africa, it's up the African leaders to decide, will be good for Africa.
Yes, but it will change. And what I keep saying, right now, our main job is to make sure the regional markets, they all work. Okay? Once they work, then we can now go to AFCTA. But the AFCTA also, we need to make sure that it works. We cannot have a very, very promising continent, and our intra-trade is less than 16%. Okay, so we Africans will have to do it. If we are waiting for foreigners to come and do it, both the development of Africa, it's not going to happen. So it can only happen by us Africans. We must risk our resources and make sure that we lead. Then we will have people who actually trust and believe in Africa, like Patrick, to come and help us to push to the next level.
Thank you.
Just 1 second. On a point of personal privilege, because I have the microphone, I complained recently about Nigeria requires me to pay $215 for a single entry 1-month visa every time. Biometrics is $170. And I said, as an African, as a Kenyan, this seems unfair. And they told me, actually, Kenya said it would be easier to come to Kenya, but then you introduced an electronic travel authorization, which made it harder to come to Kenya. So I was like, I don't work for government, but President Ruto is here, so he's heard.
Okay. But let me also tell you the good news. On Monday, there was cabinet meeting, and President Tinubu wasn't happy about this same visa issue, and I can assure you in the next couple of weeks, you'll see a massive reform in terms of visas going into Nigeria.
Africa, wake up. Africa, rise up. Africa, without borders. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Alhaji, you have operations across more than a dozen countries. What are you most excited about on the continent right now?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to the Africa CEO conference this year. And I must thank His Excellency for inviting me personally, to be here, and that's why I'm here. Well, I'm very, very excited because the growth going forward, the future is Africa. We have whatever it takes to make Africa great, and I think that is why I'm not only putting in my own, money, I'm putting my soul and life in Africa to make Africa great. Like what I keep saying, nothing is impossible in Africa. Africa is like a scratch card. Unless you scratch it, you know what number it is, or you won't be able to use it. So that is why For some of us, despite the boom of the capital market of the US, Google, Microsoft, and the rest, we didn't really participate. We took all our money and invested. In the last 7 years, we have invested more than $25 billion in terms of making Africa self-sufficient in fertilizer, in petrochemicals, in refined products, and also continue with the expansion of our cement business. So what we have right now, we also say, okay, fine, is it possible for an African company to grow this big? And we had this dream just about 5 years ago, and we say, okay, we want to move from 5 billion revenue to 30 billion revenue. Is it possible? And we made it happen. It's possible now, we've done it, and we have actually finished our own refinery. Our refinery is quite big. It is something that we believe Africa needs, because we now looked at it and said, okay, fine, in Africa, do we really refine the oil we consume? Do we really refine the oil we produce? The answer is no. And you look for the entire continent, there are only 2 countries that don't import petroleum product, which is a tragedy. I mean, only Morocco, not only Algeria and Libya, but the rest are all importers. So we need to really change by making sure that, yes, we just don't go and produce raw material, we should produce finished products and create jobs. One of the things that we need to know as also Africans is that, yes, we produce raw materials, we export them. When you export raw materials and somebody now keep importing things into your continent and be dumping goods, what you are importing poverty and exporting jobs out. So we have to change the narrative.
You've spent, thank you. You mentioned investing $25 billion in the last few years. 20 billion of that went into just this refinery, which is the largest on the continent. It opened a year ago. What is the impact so far of that having come on stream?
There is quite of impact. We just commissioned in February. We've started now, we're producing jet fuel, we're producing gasoline, diesel. By next month, we'll be producing gasoline. But what that will do is that it will be able to take most of the African crudes that are being produced and also be able to supply not only Nigeria. Nigeria, our capacity is too big for Nigeria, but it will be able to supply in West Africa, Central Africa, and also South Africa. We have 650,000 metric tons of, 650,000 barrels per day. We have 1 million tons of polypropylene. We have 590,000 carbon black, raw materials for, making ink, dyes, and co. And then we are expanding more. This is the first phase. We're actually going now to the next phase, which will start early next year.
I want to talk about cement in a moment, but I just want to go back to the refinery. And speaking of opposition, how much pushback, how much opposition did you face in building a refinery this big from scratch?
Well, I don't know where to start from, but the pushback was very, very heavy. It was very, very impactful because there are people who have actually been used to just making money trading without refining. And, to get people who are committed to Africa, like Patrick Pionnet, he's here, not because he's here. If it's not true, I wouldn't say it, but somebody like Patrick believes in investing in Africa. Because a lot of the companies that are today are operating, they're actually not investing, And some of the, issues of stopping that investment is going to impact us not today, going forward in the future, which means our oil production will continue to go down. Because in oil, unless you keep investing, your production will go down. So that is the issue. And, people talk about, yes, all these vehicles, EVs. Yes, it's true. Today, the production of vehicles in the world is about 100 million. If you take even 25 million vehicles to produce, you need over 6 million tons of lithium and other copper and other things, which today we're at a capacity of about 1 million. So I don't know when this thing is going to replace the fossil fuel. For some of us, we believe that, okay, fine, even if there will be a reduction. I mean, you can see, of recent, you've seen Hertz rental car. They dropped all their EVs, and they've gone back to gasoline. We should ask them why. What was the reason that they did that? It's not that I don't I believe in it, but it will take time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. But with us, we face the most challenging thing in terms of building this refinery. First of all, we couldn't find what you call an EPC contractor. That is engineering, procurement, and construction. The conditions that they were giving us were no conditions that we could actually take. The pricing that they were giving us wasn't a condition that we could actually even afford. So we, as Dangote, got so upset, and we set up our own internal team to now do the entire project. People will think that, yes, refinery, okay. It's not a common refinery that was built. Our refinery is 650,000 barrels. Every single equipment that we have in the refinery was never, ever designed or built because of the size. Smaller size have been done. Maximum refinery, I think it's about 420,000 barrels. We are the only ones, first in the world, to do 650,000, inclusive of petrochemicals. And we are the EPC contractors. So that's why today, if you go to our yard, you see that we have almost 340 cranes, 40, the equipment that we have, construction equipment that we have, is much more than the entire construction equipment of West Africa. Entire. We have to do that. We have to build a port to be able to receive some of the equipment, because we had some 2 or 3 pieces that are 3,000 tons, one piece. So we have to build special ports to be able to receive those, equipments. Challenging times, we have to, do sand filling of 65 million tons of sand to bring off the level of this. So we face so many issues by running so much of infrastructure, which was zero in Nigeria. We had no infrastructure. So we had to build all this infrastructure to be able to build. And the major burden on us was that, look, there is no room for failure because we were the EPC contractors. 90% of people never ever believed that we'll be able to deliver. But, we've been able to deliver for now.
That's incredible. You talked about the capacity is greater than what Nigeria can take in. You can export to West Africa, the rest of the region. But the first step is, when will Nigeria become fully self-sufficient? Do you think that you don't have to import oil? Yeah. Do you have a projection?
Well, right now, Nigeria have no cost to import anything apart from gasoline. By sometime in June, next month, within the next 4 or 5 weeks, Nigeria shouldn't import anything like gasoline, not 1 drop of liter. And when you look at it, I will share a publication of 31st of March, 1975, which was now almost 50 years ago. Nigeria, we were working on removing queues of petroleum, supply. So we've been trying all along, and we've been having issues. But right now, this issue has been addressed not only for Nigeria, for even our neighboring countries. We have enough gasoline to give to at least the entire West Africa. We have enough diesel to give to West Africa, Central Africa. We have enough aviation fuel to give to the entire continent and also export some to Brazil and Mexico. So what we have actually done is not...
I apologize to interrupt you, sir. I just want to make sure that we can give a big welcome. Please stand and welcome His Excellency, President William Ruto of Kenya. Please sit.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Madam, what we're doing, I think we as an African company, and we're proudly African, is to see what are that. It's not only about petroleum products. Today, our polypropylene and our polyethylene will meet the entire demand of Africa today. We're doing, we're doing base oil, which is to do like engine oil. We're doing linear benzene, which is raw material to produce LAB, which is raw material to produce detergent. We have 1.4 billion people population. Nobody is producing that in Africa. So all our detergents are imported, the raw material. We are producing that raw material to make Africa self-sufficient. And as I said, give us 3, maximum 4 years, Africa will not, and I repeat, and you can challenge me, will not import any more fertilizer from anywhere. We'll make Africa self-sufficient in both potash, phosphate. Even if you don't have enough, there is a lot in Morocco. But we're also looking at the opportunities. Our urea, we're at 3 million tons. In the next 20 months, we will be at 6 million tons of urea, which is, I think, the entire capacity of Egypt. We're getting there, and I'm sure we'll make everybody proud.
Fantastic.
I think, just to add, in Nigeria, I think the current government, they've done quite a lot, like what you said, in electricity tariff. The issue is about payment. And then they have also done quite a lot in terms of the PIA, which is Petroleum Industry Act. It's true, it might not be 100% perfect, but it's a start. And I'm sure the government is always willing to, and that is why we have somebody like you as the head of Total still investing. You are back to investment. Apart from this, the deal that we just closed this morning, you've closed even one last week on gas. Okay, even us, we have closed deals with Shell on gas because it makes sense. But I think the biggest challenge that we have as entrepreneurs in Africa is the inconsistencies in policies. One now you say, okay, yes, today we are going to drive left hand, or you say, okay, fine. Goalpost is here, just in front of you. When you are about to score the goal, then the government will remind you, no, the goalpost has been changed to behind you. So, so these are the main issues that are actually, they can bankrupt anybody. So I think we need to really look at it that, look, our own political leaders, what you need to understand is that it's a win-win. It's like what they say, you cannot clap with one hand, you clap with 2 hands. Now, I was telling somebody was talking about, you people are making too much money in cement, blah, blah, blah. Then later on, I reminded the person that, look, go and check our figures. For every 1 naira that I turn around, government collects 52%. So
on every single naira?
On every single naira we turn around, 52% goes to the government through various taxes. Okay, so it's not a tea party. Everybody, everybody is benefiting. And then there are quite a lot of countries, especially in East Africa, that we have helped. When we went to East Africa 10 years ago or 9 years ago, when we were building our own cement plants, we were paying $230 per ton. Okay, but after our plant, the price dropped to even as low as 65. You know, so there are quite a lot of benefits, not only to the countries, but to also the citizens of those countries. We've created jobs. In the same Patrick is saying, yes, we lack skills. In the refinery we built, we had at a point 67,000 workers, but 35,000 workers from Nigeria have actually been trained, and I can assure you by the time we finish the project, they are better fitters, welders than the people we brought from India and other countries. Well certified.
Right. We are delaying the president. So
just one last word. In fact, I want to tell you that there are also very good examples of governance in Africa. It's here in Rwanda. You have a country which is really, for me, since I discovered it, I came first with my family to visit the country, and it was extraordinary to see how this country, without a lot of natural resource, is able, because of a vision and a clear leader, without moving the target, like you said, you managed to have an incredible development. So I think we can praise President Kagame for that.
Finally, really quickly, we talk a lot about the African Continental Free Trade Area, the ability for goods and services to move across the continent. Mr. Dangote, you have previously complained about the difficulty of traveling on a Nigerian passport across the continent. Has it become easier?
Even an hour ago, I complained to President Kagame.
At least you can come here visa-free.
No, here is the best example, but I told him that, yes, as an investor, as somebody who really wants to make Africa great, I have to now apply 35 different visas on my passport. And I told Mr. President, I said, Mr. President, I really don't have the time to go and be dropping my passports in embassies to get a visa. But you see, the most annoying thing is that, yes, if you are treating everybody the same, then I can understand. You know, I can assure you, Patrick doesn't need 35 visas. No, I said that. What I'm saying, you have...
You do not... You don't need 35 visas on a French passport compared to a Nigerian passport.
35 visas on French passport.
No.
But, you know, so which means you have a freer movement than myself in Africa.
Yeah. But you have, I remember that there are 3 countries, Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda. You have 1 visa for the free when you are a tourist.
This is true.
I've done it. So it's good. So you can expand it. It's a question of will. But I think all what is moving on about community between Africa, it's up to the African leaders to decide, will be good for Africa.
Yes, but we will change. And what I keep saying, right now, our main job is to make sure the regional markets, they all work. Okay? Once they work, then we can now go to AFCTA. But the AFCTA also, we need to make sure that it works. We cannot have a very, very promising continent, and our intra-trade is less than 16%. Okay, so we Africans will have to do it. If we are waiting for foreigners to come and do it, both the development of Africa, it's not going to happen. So it can only happen by us Africans. We must risk our resources and make sure that we lead. Then we will have people who actually trust and believe in Africa, like Patrick, to come and help us to push to the next level.
Thank you.
Just 1 second. On a point of personal privilege, because I have the microphone, I complained recently about Nigeria requires me to pay $215 for a single entry 1-month visa every time. Biometrics is $170. And I said, as an African, as a Kenyan, this seems unfair. And they told me, actually, Kenya said it would be easier to come to Kenya, but then you introduced an electronic travel authorization, which made it harder to come to Kenya. So I was like, I don't work for government, but President Ruto is here, so he's heard.
Okay. But let me also tell you the good news. On Monday, there was cabinet meeting, and President Tinubu wasn't happy about this same visa issue. And I can assure you, in the next couple of weeks, you'll see a massive reform in terms of visas going into Nigeria.
I think on that optimistic note, thank you so much. You have been both so candid. We appreciate your time, Mr. Puyane, Mr. Dangote. Thank you.
Africa, wake up. Africa, rise up. Africa without borders. Africa, continental free trade area. The time is now. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.